My name is Daniel Miller. I'm 42 years old, live just outside Maple Hollow, Tennessee, and for the better part of 20 years, I've been an electrician. Most days, my world felt like a jumble of wires: connect this, cap that, troubleshoot the breaker that keeps tripping, try to make sense of somebody else's messy work. Life itself felt kind of like that, too: wake up, chase the next job, fix what's broken, or at least make it work for now, pay the bills, fall into bed exhausted, repeat. Get tangled up in problems, untangle them just enough to get by. It was practical, necessary work, putting food on the table, keeping the lights on, literally. But deep meaning? Purpose? Nah. That felt like luxury thinking, something for people with more time or money than me. Religion wasn't really on my radar. Grew up going to church sometimes with mom, mostly Easter and Christmas, but it never stuck. Seemed like a lot of rules and rituals that didn't connect with my day-to-day grind. God, if he was up there, felt distant, like the CEO of a giant corporation who wouldn't know a guy like me from Adam. I figured he had bigger things to worry about than faulty wiring in Maple Hollow or whether I made it through another week. I wasn't hostile towards faith, I just didn't see the point. I relied on my own hands, my own know-how, the tangible feel of copper wire and conduit. You could trust that. You could see the results when the lights came back on. My mom, bless her heart, still lived in the old family house just across town. Since Dad passed years ago, it was just her. I tried to check in, fix things around her place when I could, but life always seemed to get in the way. Calls were often rushed, conversations perfunctory. Everything okay, Mom? Yeah, fine, honey. Need anything fixed? No, I'm alright. Click. I loved her, of course, but I didn't always show it well. Sometimes, honestly, her gentle reminders about church or her quiet worrying felt like another circuit overloading my already strained system. Easier to keep things superficial, avoid the deeper currents. Work was my focus. Running my own small business meant long hours, dealing with demanding customers, wrestling with faulty circuits in 100-degree attics during Tennessee summers, fixing furnaces in freezing crawl spaces in the winter. It was hard, physical work. Satisfaction came from solving a tricky problem, getting the power back on, receiving a check that would cover the mortgage and the truck payment. Connection? Meaning? Those weren't usually part of the job description. Just get it done, move on to the next tangled mess. I thought that was all life was, really. A series of jobs, bills, and brief moments of relief before the next problem popped up. Just a complicated, often frustrating, wiring project that you kept patching up until the main breaker finally tripped for good. I had no idea how soon mine was about to flip, or what I'd find when the power went out. June 12, 2017. The date is burned into my memory like a brand. The heat that day was brutal, classic Tennessee summer, thick, heavy air that felt like wading through soup, the sun beating down relentlessly. I just finished a long, sweaty job rewiring parts of an old farmhouse out in the county. The attic felt like an oven, dust motes dancing in the slivers of light, insulation sticking to my sweat-soaked shirt. Finally got the ancient fuse box updated to breakers, everything tested out okay. Packed up my tools, collected the check, felt that familiar wave of weary satisfaction mixed with utter exhaustion. As I climbed into my pickup truck, the vinyl seat searing hot against my back, it hit me. Not gradually, but like a physical blow, a sharp, agonizing pain right in the center of my chest. It radiated outwards, squeezing, taking my breath away. Just heat exhaustion, I thought, trying to dismiss it. Maybe pulled a muscle wrestling with that old panel. I cranked the AC, took a long swig of lukewarm water from the bottle rolling around on the passenger seat. But the pain didn't ease, it intensified. My hands started trembling, making it hard to grip the steering wheel. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead, despite the heat. My vision started to blur at the edges. Breathing felt like trying to suck air through a clogged pipe. Panic, cold and sharp, sliced through the exhaustion. This wasn't just fatigue. This was serious. My first thought, oddly, was Mom. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers clumsy and shaking. Punched in her number. When she answered, my voice came out as a weak, reedy gasp I barely recognized. "Mom, something's wrong." Chest. Her voice instantly shifted from cheerful greeting to high-alert panic. Kenny, what is it? Where are you?" "Job, farmhouse, chest hurts bad, can't breathe right." "Oh, Lord Jesus." "Ken, hang up and call 911. Or get to the hospital. Right now." "Do you hear me?" she screamed into the phone, her terror palpable even through the tinny speaker. Calling 911 felt complicated, trying to explain where I was out in the county. The hospital wasn't that far, maybe 10-15 minutes if I pushed it. "I can make it," my stubborn brain insisted. "Faster than waiting for an ambulance out here." Looking back, it was a stupid, dangerous decision, fueled by panic and a lifetime of trying to fix things myself. I somehow got the truck started, pulling onto the country road, my vision tunneling, the pain a relentless vice. I honestly don't remember much of that drive. It's a blur of sun-drenched asphalt, green fields whipping past, the desperate struggle for each breath, the searing pain. My only focus was the hospital sign, miles ahead. I must have run red lights, swerved, I don't know. All I know is I somehow made it into the town limits, saw the hospital entrance approaching. I think I aimed the truck towards the emergency entrance, bumped over a curb, and then, nothing. Absolute darkness consumed me as I slumped over the wheel just yards from the doors. The next thing I knew, I wasn't in the truck. I wasn't anywhere physical. I was floating. Looking down. Below me was a scene of controlled chaos unfolding in an ER bay. There I was, Daniel Miller, lying utterly still on a gurney, face pale, chest bared. Doctors and nurses moved rapidly around me, barking orders, ripping open my shirt. One nurse was performing vigorous chest compressions. Another was fiddling with 4 lines. The heart monitor beside the gurney emitted a flat, continuous, soul-chilling tone. My heart monitor. Through the window of the ER bay door, I saw my mother. She must have raced down there the second I called. She stood clutching the worn wooden rosary bead she always carried, her face streaked with tears, lips moving in frantic prayer. Seeing her anguish should have torn me apart. Seeing my own lifeless body being desperately worked on should have terrified me. But it didn't. As I hovered there, an invisible, detached observer, the most profound sense of peace I had ever experienced enveloped me like a warm, weighted blanket. The pain was gone. The panic was gone. The exhaustion, the stress of my entire life, just dissolved. The frantic efforts below seemed distant, almost irrelevant. It was as if the world had stopped spinning just for me, and in that stillness, I felt utterly safe, completely held. The tangled wires of my life suddenly felt smooth, orderly, peaceful. The peace deepened, coalesced, and then I felt it, a gentle but irresistible pull. Not a force, exactly, but a draw, an invitation. The harsh fluorescent lights of the ER faded, replaced by a soft, internal luminescence that grew steadily brighter. It wasn't a blinding glare, but a light that felt alive, intelligent, welcoming. It shimmered with colors I couldn't name, shifting and swirling like the most perfect electrical current imaginable, pure energy, pure love. It drew me forward, effortlessly, into its embrace. I found myself moving along a pathway that wasn't solid ground. It felt like walking on solidified light, like stepping on millions of melted stars, warm and vibrant beneath my non-physical feet. The space around me wasn't empty, it hummed with a low, resonant frequency, a beautiful, harmonious vibration that felt like the synchronized heartbeat of the entire universe. It wasn't music as I knew it, but it was profoundly musical, a symphony of peace, belonging, and infinite love. For the first time in my life, maybe for the first time ever, I didn't feel alone. I felt connected to this light, this vibration, this overwhelming presence. And then, ahead of me on this path of light, a figure emerged, bathed in a soft, welcoming glow. My breath caught. It was Mom. But not the Mom I'd just seen weeping in the waiting room, with her gray hair and worried lines etched deep around her eyes. This was Mom from my childhood, younger, vibrant, her dark hair free of silver, her face smooth, radiating health and a gentle, familiar warmth. She wore the same kind of simple dress I remembered her wearing when I was small, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She smiled, that same loving smile she gave me when she taught me how to tie my shoes, or when she caught me trying to sneak an extra cookie before dinner. "Kenny," she said, using the childhood nickname I hadn't heard in decades. Her voice wasn't just sound, it was like music, like warmth, carrying an echo of love across the years. "Oh, my boy. You forgot, didn't you? You forgot how much love there is. How much you are loved." A wave of emotion washed over me, regret, love, longing. I wanted to run to her, hug her, apologize for every time I'd been short-tempered, every rushed phone call, every time I hadn't shown her how much she meant to me. Tears filled my eyes, spiritual tears, warm and cleansing. But before I could move, she just smiled that knowing, loving smile again, gave a little beckoning wave, and turned, gliding further along the starlit path, inviting me to follow. My heart, or whatever passed for it here, pounded with anticipation. Every step felt significant now, leading me towards something immense, something I desperately needed to understand. I followed her gaze, followed her gentle leading, and then I saw him. Standing further down the path, radiating a light that was both incredibly powerful and infinitely gentle. He wasn't tall and imposing, not clad in gold or sitting on a throne. He looked ordinary, in a way. Like a man you might meet on the street, yet profoundly different. He wore a simple, seamless robe of a light, natural color. His features were kind, his eyes deep, dark pools that seemed to hold all the wisdom and sorrow and love of the universe. They looked at me, into me, seeing everything, the calloused hands of the electrician, the hidden fears, the buried kindnesses, the layers of cynicism, seeing it all without a shred of judgment, only understanding and profound compassion. I didn't need an angel to announce him, my soul knew, instantly and absolutely. This was Jesus. He didn't speak at first. He simply opened his arms. Hesitantly, overwhelmed, I stepped forward. He drew me into an embrace. It wasn't just a physical hug, it felt like my very essence was being held, accepted, cherished. Warmth flooded through me, melting away decades of guardedness, loneliness, and unspoken pain. It felt like coming home after being lost in a cold, harsh wilderness for a very long time. It was the feeling of being completely known and completely loved anyway. It was grace made tangible. He held me for what felt like an eternity, then gently pulled back, his hands resting on my shoulders. "Daniel," he said, his voice warm like the summer sun, yet gentle like a flowing stream. It resonated not in my ears, but in the deepest part of my being. "You were never alone. Not for one moment." As he spoke, another presence materialized softly beside him. A woman, radiating a serene, luminous quality, her face gentle, her eyes filled with an incredible depth of maternal love and compassion. She didn't speak, but I recognized her instantly, as clearly as I had recognized Jesus. It was Mary, his mother. She simply smiled at me, a smile of pure, unconditional acceptance, like the idealized love every child longs for from their mother. She reached out a hand and gently touched my forehead. A wave of peace, different from the earlier overwhelming peace but just as profound, calming, nurturing, deeply comforting, flowed through me at her touch. Her eyes seemed to convey a silent message: be true to the love you find here, my child. Live it. Share it. I stood there, between Jesus and Mary, enveloped in their combined presence, feeling more loved, more seen, more whole than I ever thought possible. I wept again, not from sadness, but from the sheer shattering relief of finally understanding what truly mattered, what I had been missing my entire life. Jesus kept his hand on my shoulder, his touch both grounding and illuminating. "Let's look at your life, Daniel," he said gently. "Not for judgment, but for understanding." Instantly, my life began to unfold around me, but not like watching a movie on a screen. It was far more immersive, more real. I was re-experiencing key moments, feeling the emotions, sensing the atmosphere, but this time with an added layer of awareness, understanding not only my own feelings and motivations, but also the impact of my actions, words, and even thoughts on others, all bathed in the non-judgmental light of his love. The first scene solidified around me. It was a bitter cold Tennessee winter, maybe 5 or 6 years prior. I was inside the small, drafty home of Mrs. Laney, an elderly widow whose furnace had died. I remembered the job well. It was late on a Friday, I was tired, wanted to get home, but her plight had tugged at something in me. I saw myself working diligently, bundled up against the chill, diagnosing the problem, replacing the faulty igniter. I re-experienced the physical discomfort of the cold, the frustration with the old unit. But then, I saw Mrs. Laney, huddled in blankets, her face etched with worry that slowly dissolved into relief as the furnace finally kicked on, warm air beginning to circulate. I felt her profound gratitude, saw her frail hands tremble as she offered me a steaming mug of hot cocoa with marshmallows, insisting I take it despite my initial refusal. "You're a lifesaver, Ken," she started, then corrected herself, "Daniel. A true lifesaver." I felt again the simple satisfaction I'd experienced then, the warmth of the cocoa, the feeling of a job well done. But now, in his presence, I understood the deeper significance. It wasn't just about fixing a furnace, it was about offering warmth, security, human kindness to someone vulnerable and alone. It was a moment where I had, however unconsciously, acted out of love, reflecting a tiny spark of his light. And it mattered. Immensely. Then the scene shifted, jarringly. I was in my mother's kitchen, maybe a year or two before the NDE. We were arguing. I couldn't recall the exact trigger now, maybe money worries, maybe frustration over her asking me to fix something again when I was already swamped with work. I saw myself, face tight with anger and impatience, snapping at her. "Mom, I don't have time for this right now. Can't you see I'm stressed? Just handle it yourself." The words, sharp and dismissive, hung in the air. I re-experienced my own frustration, my feeling of being overwhelmed. But this time, horrifyingly, I also felt her reaction. I saw the flicker of hurt in her eyes before she quickly masked it with a resigned sigh. I felt the wave of sadness wash over her, the familiar ache of feeling like a burden, the quiet loneliness deepening. I saw her turn away, busying herself at the sink, shoulders slumped slightly. Back then, blinded by my own stress, I hadn't seen it, hadn't felt it. Now, it pierced me to the core. Overwhelming regret washed over me. How could I have been so callous, so blind to her pain, caused by my own selfish words? I wanted to fall to my knees right there, apologize, take it all back. Other moments flashed by, faster now. A time I impatiently cut off another driver in traffic, oblivious to the stress I might have caused them. A brief memory of helping a young couple jumpstart their car on a rainy night, feeling their relief. An interaction with a former coworker, Dave, a good guy I'd been competitive with, maybe dismissed his ideas unfairly in a meeting, contributing to him eventually leaving the company. I felt the pang of that competitive pride, now revealed as insecurity. I saw missed opportunities, times I could have offered a kind word to a struggling apprentice but didn't, times I could have called mom just to chat but made excuses, times I focused solely on the technical problem instead of the anxious homeowner. It wasn't a highlight reel or a list of sins. It was an intricate tapestry of choices, actions, inactions, motivations, all laid bare. The moments of kindness shone brightly, radiating warmth. The moments of selfishness, anger, impatience, and neglect felt heavy, discordant, painful not because of divine anger, but because they were revealed as moments where I had failed to love, failed to connect, failed to reflect the light I was created in. Throughout this entire process, Jesus stood beside me, his presence a constant source of love and understanding. There was no condemnation in his eyes, only compassion. When I felt the sharp sting of regret over hurting my mother or dismissing Dave, his presence seemed to say, "I see that. It is covered. You are forgiven." The forgiveness wasn't cheap, it felt profound, earned not by me, but by the immeasurable love that radiated from him, a love that had already paid the price for all my failings. Mary's gentle presence nearby reinforced this feeling of unconditional acceptance, her serene gaze offering comfort and maternal grace. Seeing my life this way, the interconnectedness, the impact of small choices, the paramount importance of love and kindness over invoices and breaker panels, was transformative. The desire to stay here, in this place of perfect love and understanding, was overwhelming. It was everything my soul had unknowingly craved. No more struggles, no more regrets, no more tangled wires. Just peace. But even as that desire surged, images of my earthly life surfaced with new clarity. Mom, sitting alone in her house, perhaps waiting for a call that might not come if I stayed. Mrs. Laney, needing her furnace checked before next winter. Dave, the former colleague, maybe still carrying a hurt I had caused. Even the frustrating wiring job seemed different now, opportunities not just for income, but for connection, for service. There was so much love I hadn't given, so many connections I hadn't nurtured, so many moments I could live differently now that I understood. The choice solidified in my heart, painful yet clear. Leaving this perfection felt like tearing myself away from the source of life itself, but staying felt incomplete. Unfinished. "I want to go back," I communicated, the thought a whispered prayer filled with both sorrow and burgeoning purpose. "I need to go back. To try again. To love better." Jesus looked at me, his deep eyes filled with understanding and approval. He placed his hands firmly on my shoulders, his touch grounding me even as it prepared me to leave. "Go then, Daniel," his voice resonated with warmth and authority. "Live by love. Let that be the current that guides you. Fix the circuits, yes, but more importantly, connect the hearts. Know that I am always with you, empowering you, loving you." His gaze held mine for a final, profound moment. "And remember, this light, this love you feel now, it is for everyone. Share it." The light began to dim, the celestial music faded, the feeling of his embrace lessened, replaced by the inexorable pull back towards the heavy, limited reality I had chosen to re-enter. The peace remained, but now it was mingled with purpose, with mission. Back to the world of tangled wires, but this time, carrying the master schematic. My eyes snapped open. The transition was jarring, like being thrown from serene silence into a cacophony. Harsh fluorescent lights glared down. The rhythmic beeping and whooshing of machines filled my ears. A dull ache throbbed in my chest, and my throat felt raw. I was in a hospital bed, wires and tubes connecting me to the humming machines. The first face I saw clearly was my mother's. She was sitting bolt upright in the chair beside my bed, her ever-present rosary beads clutched tightly in her hands. The moment our eyes met, relief flooded her features, followed immediately by a torrent of tears. "Kenny. Oh, thank God. You're awake. Doctor. Doctor, he's awake," she cried out, grabbing my hand, her tears wetting my skin. A doctor and nurses quickly appeared. Questions, checks, adjustments. Later, the doctor explained what had happened. Apparently, after I collapsed near the ER entrance from what they suspected was a cardiac event, they initiated emergency treatment. During the resuscitation efforts, I had a severe, unexpected anaphylactic reaction to one of the emergency medications. My heart had stopped completely. For about 2 minutes, "Mr. Miller, you were clinically deceased," the doctor stated, his tone professional but tinged with a hint of wonder. "Your spontaneous return of circulation after the reaction was stabilized, well, it was quite remarkable. We don't often see outcomes like this." He called it an anomaly, A miracle, in layman's terms, likely due to the swift medical intervention. But I knew, with a certainty that resonated deeper than bone, it was no mere medical anomaly or lucky break. It was a choice. A gift. A second chance woven from divine love. The weeks that followed were a period of physical recovery and profound internal recalibration. Lying in that hospital bed, and later recovering at home, the experience of the NDE remained vividly real, overshadowing the mundane reality around me. The memory of that love, that peace, the clarity of the life review, the weight of Jesus's mandate, it rewired my entire perspective. The things that used to consume my thoughts, the stress of the next job, the worry about bills, the petty frustrations, seemed insignificant, like static noise compared to the clear signal I had received. The change wasn't instantaneous perfection, it was a conscious, ongoing effort to live differently, fueled by the memory and the mission. The first, most immediate change was with Mom. Before, our calls were brief, functional. Now, I called her every single evening. Not just a quick, "You okay?" but a real conversation. I asked about her day, really listened to her stories about her garden club or the neighbors, shared things about my own day beyond just work complaints. I started ending every call with, "I love you, Mom." The first few times, there was a surprised silence on her end, then a choked up, "I love you too, Kenny." Those 3 words, spoken with genuine feeling, felt more important than any electrical code I'd ever followed. A few weeks after I got home, still taking it easy, I heard through the town grapevine about a young family whose house had major electrical issues after a storm, and they couldn't afford the repairs. The old Daniel might have felt a pang of sympathy but concluded it wasn't his problem. The new Daniel felt a nudge, a memory of Mrs. Laney's grateful face. I drove over there, introduced myself, and offered to take a look, no charge. They were hesitant at first, proud people struggling after the husband lost his job. But I insisted, gently. As I worked, replacing the damaged breaker box and fixing the faulty wiring, they shared their story, the setbacks, the fears, the hopes for their kids. I listened, truly listened, offering not just electrical expertise but empathy. When the lights came back on reliably, the relief on their faces, the hugs from their kids, the connection we made, that felt more valuable than any check I'd ever received. It was living by love, one circuit at a time. There was also Dave, my former coworker. The memory of my competitive dismissal of him during my life review gnawed at me. It took courage, but I tracked down his number and called him. "Dave," I said, swallowing my pride, "it's Daniel Miller. Hey, listen, I know this is out of the blue, but I've been thinking. I wanted to apologize for how I acted back when we worked together on that hospital project. I was competitive, arrogant, didn't give your ideas the credit they deserved. I was wrong, and I'm truly sorry." There was a long pause. Then Dave chuckled, a little surprised. "Wow, Miller. Didn't expect that." "Yeah, you were kind of a jerk back then sometimes," he admitted honestly, but without malice. "But hey, water under the bridge, man. Apology accepted. Good to hear from you." Hanging up, I felt a burden lift, a circuit of past negativity finally disconnected. Forgiveness, given and received, was its own form of light. My day-to-day work changed too. I still fixed faulty outlets and installed ceiling fans, but my interactions shifted. I found myself being more patient with anxious homeowners, taking an extra minute to explain things clearly, maybe even sharing a bit of my own story if the moment felt right, framing it simply as a health scare that gave me a new appreciation for life and kindness. I started seeing my clients not just as job tickets, but as people, each with their own tangled wires, each deserving of respect and a spark of connection. Life isn't suddenly perfect. I still have tough days, frustrating jobs, moments where the old impatience flares up. But the underlying current has changed. It's no longer just about getting by, paying bills, fixing wires. It's about recognizing the divine spark in everyone, about choosing kindness, about making connections, about living each day as an opportunity to reflect the incredible, unconditional love I experienced in that realm of light. I used to think I was just an ordinary electrician, insignificant in the grand scheme. Now I know that no one is insignificant. Every connection made, every act of kindness, sends a current of light into the world. I saw the other side, or maybe, the real side. And it wasn't about judgment or cosmic scorecards. It was about love. A love so immense, so pure, so unconditional, it defies earthly description. And that love isn't just there, it's here, available to all of us, reflected in every act of genuine kindness, every moment of true connection, every instance of forgiveness. Maybe you feel like your life is just a tangle of wires right now, confusing, frustrating, just trying to keep things from short-circuiting. Maybe you feel overlooked, insignificant, disconnected. Please hear this, you are not alone. You are infinitely loved, right now, exactly as you are. That light I saw, that love I felt, Jesus made it clear it's for everyone. Including you. You don't need to have your heart stop to experience it. You can choose, today, to live differently. Call that person you love. Forgive that old hurt. Offer a small kindness to a stranger. Listen, truly listen, to someone's story. Look for the light in others, and let your own light shine, however small it feels. Those moments of connection, those acts of love, that's the real current of life. That's plugging into the source. If it sparked something in your own heart, please subscribe to this channel. We share stories like this every day, reminders that life is more than meets the eye, that love is the ultimate reality, and that second chances are real. Click subscribe, stay connected, and keep seeking the light. It's closer than you think.